This old barn was built about 1854 when the house was built, and it's built out of hard pine logs that were hand hewn and put up in these rafters that you see up here. Were peeled pine logs, get the bark off, and up top they're mortised together with pigs up at the corner of the roof. These short ones are one-man cross-cut saws, and the long ones were two-man saws. And that was what they used in the logging operation to cut down large trees. And this old thing over here was you could use it for post hole digger, but you could extend those handles out and dig a well with it if you wanted to, if it didn't have to go too deep. That thing is a broad axe. They use that to hew out these logs out of these beams under here out of a log to square them up. And that's a broad hatchet that we use in a wood shop. And that's a double bit axe with a blade on each side. There's an old board that came out of a tenant house down here where the cook lived, and got 1900 in, and that long lumber would have been cut in a Warden Grimes water-powered sawmill. Down here some reel type lawn mowers before they had power mowers. You would push them along and it'd smooth it up just like a golf course, but they were kind of a man killer, but that's how I got my start mowing lawns, which you know. That's part of a post vise there. We'll see a better one out there to mount it to a post in a shop, and that would tighten it up. And this is a drill press here, hand powered. You use it to drill holes in metal or wood or whatever, but you had a handle hit it, and it would automatically go down a fraction of an inch each time you turned it, get the hole deeper. That's just an old pair of wire stretchers up there. The way bales were cotton with, it would be mounted up on not a platform, but anyway you had the hooks that would go in a bale of cotton and put the hooks on there, and this would be mounted up high with a lever, and a man could pick up the bale of cotton, and these are peas here. You would move it up, and that's got numbers on there. You can't see it, but move it up until it's balanced so you know how much that bale of cotton weighed. And over here some small ones that you would use in the field when you would weigh up the picker's cotton. They would have a cotton sack full, and at the end of the day you would weigh it up and know how much to pay them when you paid them by the pound. That's just part of an old seal pipe with mortised out where they join two tin timbers together. And that's some old ones. We call them steel yards is what they really were, but everybody calls them steel. Under here's an old fishing tackle box, double covered, I think for deep sea fishing. I don't know, I think somebody gave that to our family. We never did use it. Over here was a cane pole. These are just some old brick that were sun baked. They were not kiln dried. And here are two square brick. They came out of the old Wilcox County Hotel in Camden. I never had seen anything like that before. They could be made in a blacksmith shop up until the late 1800s, and then it started using the nails we have today, round nails. Okay, now these are some old whiskey jugs here where they would, to get good whiskey, they would ship it in from Kentucky and Tennessee. All the whiskey they had down here was corn whiskey, and it wasn't aged anything. And that's a little fire bucket there. We'll see it when we go around. It's some little small pots they would use on a cook stove. And there's an old electric iron, flat iron. cast iron boiler. That would be a waffle iron there. You would put it up on top of your stove and could put your waffle in there, and then you would flip it over so the other side would brown. That's a kettle. Every old wood stove had a kettle on it. Get your hot water to wash dishes and make coffee and so forth. That's just some old milk bottles. That's the kind of churn most people use. We would have a dash in it and you churn it up and down and separate the butter from the clabber. After your milk sour, it would be have clabber.
What were these little shoe-looking things on the end?
Okay, that was, most people, especially had a lot of children, they tried to repair their own shoes. They would put them up there for different size shoes. Those would be for little children's shoes, and you could re-sole them and tack soles on and all of that. But a shoe last, I believe is what they call that. An old vacuum cleaner. It was a mechanical thing you'd push along. I doubt if it worked very well, but anyway, that's what it was supposed to be. Under there's a Coca-Cola box. Before they had the styrofoam and all like we have today, but it was insulated and metal on the inside. Right here by that is an old soda acid fire extinguisher. You have water in it and had soda in it, and then had a little container of acid. When you turned it upside down, that acid would react with the soda water and give you pressure. And you had about 3 gallons of water there to put out a small fire if you needed it. This is what we call a coal stove. You carry the coal in from the coal pile into the house, and you see it fixed so it would kind of funnel the coal into your stove or fireplace or heater. Still serve the same purpose as one of these, and that's a different type there. And we didn't have any of those. We used these old crop churns that when I was growing up. You would put those by the fireplace and let the clabber warm, the milk warm, before the butter would tend to settle out. That's a little griddle you put up on the stove to griddle steaks or something. We'll maybe put it on a fireplace, I don't know. Whiskey came in all different sizes. I think that's probably 4 or 5 gallon there. These others would be 1 to 2 gallons.
Tell me about that big pot in the corner right there with the paddle in it.
Okay, that's a wash pot where you would heat it up with your clothes in there and boil them and stir them around with those paddles and try to get them clean, and then dip the water out and let them dry and put starch on them. But that's what you call a wash pot. And also you use that when you kill hogs to put what we call cracklings. The part of the skin up there that had a lot of fat on it, you cut it off in little squares and cook it, and it would get real cooked and pliable. Railroad, L&N Railroad came through here in the late 1800s. My brother collected some of that stuff. The sign up here was on the depot at Pineapple. It was made in England. It's really good porcelain glass, and this is also down there, the Railway Express agent. These are insulators that they put the telegraph lines on and parallel the railroad so they could communicate with telegraphs. And that went on a Pullman car, I believe, there. These are all cans that you use on the railroad to oil the bearings around the steam engine and all that. are jars where they can the fruit and vegetables. And you notice you got old zinc caps on there, and it would have a rubber gasket that would fit down between the cap and the glass so you can keep air out. You can tell that's old glass by the way the waves are in it. And these are different size jars and all different size. But that was the only way you could preserve food back then. Didn't have freezers or anything on it. Now these little things are what you would use to squeeze on these caps to take them off. Give you some traction before they had what we have today. That thing would have been where you would put some seasoning or something in there and put it down in your hams and all, supposedly season it up. These things were used, and we'll see a barrel down there where after you kill a hog or butcher a hog, they would put in a barrel with some water, hot water, to loosen up the hair, and we'd take these and run up and down the skin so you would get all the hair off the carcass before you tried to cut it up. Little bitty thing you would grind little pieces of meat up in and make your sausage. Now this thing was a dual purpose. This had a spout out over here, and you would put your sausage after it was ground up, and that's a little bigger sausage mill, in there and squeeze it out and put your casings on a little extension out through here and make your link sausage, and then put those link sausage in a smokehouse to smoke them before you store them. And also you take your cracklings after they were cooked and put in there and squeeze your lard out. That thing turned where this part would go down to the bottom and you could get everything out. That's a lard can there. People used to buy lard in those size cans. Of course that had old hook cheese in it. Here's a little thing here. If you didn't have a grist mill, you could grind your corn up and make a chops or a meal of grits. But most people use the stones on a grist mill. But that was a little hand power thing. That would fit down in here for the lard so your cracklings wouldn't come out, and the only thing come out would be your fat. That's a different kind of hand stuffer, sausage stuffer there. You'd put your sausage down and then push it out here, and it would have a little spout on there to put your casings in or your sausage. So put your cracklings when you came out of that wash pot with salt in a cloth bag, and you squeeze it down and get all the juice you could out of it, all the fat. And that, going down here, we can just point that out. That's an old sewing machine. Pedal drive, you can see the pedal underneath. And it had a belt that would make the machine go. That thing on the end is before they had those. That was a real old machine over there. I don't know how it was powered really, but it was a form of sewing machine. These are some toys that my brother and I had as we were growing up, and most of them probably got destroyed, but that's some little boats that Mama made out of some boards and put them out on a pond, a goldfish pond or something, and let them float. And these were homemade, and I guess these were bought. These are some lead toys. You would melt lead. I'll show you some little molds out of the blacksmith shop. Fake little toy soldiers and cannon and all of that out of lead. We used to enjoy making those. That's an erector set. It came with all kind of little things in it. You could make different things out of it. I really use Legos now, but that was all metal. Erector set. That's an old steam shovel, and it would really work. You could take this little handle and pick up dirt and then spin it around and use it. We used to play with that in sand piles a lot. And that was a little Caterpillar tractor there pulling a trailer. That's an old adding machine, manually operated adding machine. And it would print out, had paper and some ink in there, and that was the lever you used. That's before they had electricity. That's an old rotary dial telephone. Go to school, and it had up top, it had a place to put there's a thermos bottle. It was an insulated bottle you would put your drink in up there. And it was glass in there to insulate it, and if you dropped it, usually the glass would break. These are just some more footballs. Now this is a thing that Watkins used to have people that went around to different places in the rural areas particularly. And that was a sample carrier. They sold all kinds of little sundries for housewives, flavorings and all of that. And he would carry that around and try to sell his product. Watkins products, I think they still make some, maybe some flavorings and things like that. These are what doctors would use in the medical office. They had drugs in all of these little vials in here, and they would mix up their own medicine to prescribe. Some of it's already in pill form, and for treatment of most anything that ails you, I would think. That was used by Dr. David Adams, who was a medical doctor and also started the Christian Church here back in 1865. He was a Confederate veteran and came back here and established a church and had an office here in Pineapple, Dr. David Adams, and he had quite a few descendants here at one time. Store, and the store would measure it out and weigh it and sell it in smaller packages, containers. Let's see what they are. I don't know what they were for, but that's an old syringe, metal syringe. Oh, that's just medical equipment. There's some kind of gruesome, got little hooks in there. I don't know where they use that to pull the veins back or what it was for, but probably wouldn't want to know. There's some glasses that they had, old type glasses. Okay. These are some little glass weights when they had to weigh out medicines or chemicals, and would have a little balance scale, and these would be so many grams to balance the scales. Those old medicine bottles, they all had a cork stopper in them. Those are some old splints they would use for a broken limb. Used to be a whole setup here at one time.